If this video found you in your recommended, you may have no experience with icebergs. If you are experienced with icebergs and just want to watch the video, go to this timestamp. An iceberg is basically a tier list that begins with most known facts and ideas of a topic, dropping all the way down to least known facts. In this video, I'm going to be going over the disturbing website iceberg provided by Reddit user Mitch_Green4TDS1Game. This iceberg goes in depth on some of the internet's most disturbing websites. Now this iceberg won't go into any onion links for anybody that browses the dark web. This video and the iceberg in its entirety only includes links that you can visit on any old browser on the clear net. While that might turn a few people off of the video, there's actually quite an abundance of websites that made my skin crawl from either how disturbing, random, or creepy the vibe was. All the links for the websites will be left in the description for you to check out. Also, just a disclaimer, this is an iceberg video, which means that I'm not going to be going in depth on these websites. I always get a lot of comments asking why I don't go super in depth, and to that I say each of these entries could easily have their own 30 to 40 minute video. I'm trying my best to give a short and concise explanation for each entry. One last thing I have to address is what an ARG is. This term comes up a lot in this video. An ARG is short for an alternate reality game. Usually these games are fun online interactive games that start with someone leaving a clue in a video, a forum post, or on some social media platform. Then from there, people take that clue and solve riddles upon riddles, finding weird websites, finding weird phone numbers, eventually getting to an end goal. An example I bring up all the time is an incident that happened with the Dark Knight franchise. An ARG was made up by Warner Brothers to promote the movie, in which people were given a fake $1 bill with the Joker's face on it at Comic-Con. The bill then led them to a website, which led them to a location at Comic-Con. At the location, a blimp flying in the sky had a phone number that people would call. All of this interactive play was done in order to promote the movies. Some ARGs have an end goal in mind, such as the Poochie and Pansy ARG, which led people to search for a fictional figure known as the Gangadiddle, while others are just simply done for figuring out clues without a real goal in mind. Remember this term as it comes up quite a lot throughout the video. This iceberg has well over 100 entries, so if you have to clean your room, do your homework, or need to get some work done from home, I suggest leaving the video on and listening to the audio. And as per usual, there's going to be no jump scares or sudden shifts in the audio in this video. Now sit back and relax while I dive deep into the contents of this iceberg. Kicking it off with layer 1, most of layer 1 isn't disturbing stuff, but more so websites that are perfect time wasters. Elgoog.im. Elgoog is a website that archives those interactive Google Easter eggs that happen every so often. From fan favorites like the Pac-Man game that was playable on Google.com, to other fun Easter eggs like the Zerg Rush game, where you fight an army of viruses on your screen by clicking on them. There are 24 Easter egg versions of Google that have been archived on the website, and every single one works perfectly from my experience. Some of my personal favorites are Google Gravity, which applies gravity to everything on your screen, Google Tilt, which slightly turns the page askew, and the Hidden Dinosaur game in Google Chrome. Not much else needs to be said. Moving on. BoredButton.com. BoredButton.com is one of those websites that your friend showed you in class when you guys finished your assignment and wanted to goof around. The site simply displays a button that says, "Bored, press the button," and has a monologue written applying to those that are bored. Pushing the button redirects you to various games like Flappy 2048, which is a bootleg version of a game that is a mix between 2048 and Flappy Bird, Crazy Card Trick, which is just a simple magic trick, and other various websites that are just there to ease your boredom. I found this site to be very similar to another website I know called the Useless Web. The only difference is that this website redirects you to entertaining websites, while BoredButton.com simply keeps you on the same website the entire time. If you got time to waste, go on either one of these websites to keep your boredom at ease. Moving on. IsItChristmas.com. This website literally tells you if it's Christmas or not. That's it. If you click on the website when it's not Christmas, it will simply display the word "No" in big bold letters. And if you thought something spectacular would happen when Christmas comes, you're dead wrong. It just shows the word "yes" in the same exact fashion. One weird thing that people have found though is that in the coding of the website, the creator bothered to write lines of code detailing his possible depression, like this line that says, "Died from lack of heartbeat," or this one that simply states, "Let death take me." However, this is not why this site is on this list. It's just another random website for you guys to enjoy. Moving on. You fell asleep watching a DVD.com. Anyone born in the late 2000s might not understand this one, but if you ever owned a DVD player, you should be able to relate to this website. You fell asleep watching a DVD.com is a website that simulates that moment when you wake up after watching a movie, only for the DVD menu to be playing on repeat. The funny thing about this is how relatable the website actually is. I can't tell you how many times I'd fall asleep watching a movie with my family, only to wake up an hour later with all the lights off and the DVD menu blaring from the television. This website lets you pick between 8 different DVDs: Pride and Prejudice, Punch Drunk Love, Bucket List, Terminator 2, Van Wilder, Harry Potter 3, The Ben Stiller Show, and Bourne Supremacy. The thing that I found that was super cool about this website is that it actually plays the real menu from each of these DVDs. From the visuals on the TV to even the music and the sounds that emit from the television. Very relatable website that brought back some very weird nostalgic memories of the time before Netflix was a thing. Leave a comment below if you remember that bittersweet feeling of waking up to a DVD menu like this. Moving on. Akinator.com. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what the Akinator is. Akinator.com is a 20 questions type of game where you choose something to think of, whether it's something random like a celebrity or even something obscure like a side character in a video game. No matter what it is, the Akinator tries its best to narrow down its answer and eventually guesses what you're thinking of. When the Akinator first came out, it wasn't too amazing at guessing obscure ideas. However, the game learns each time someone plays it by constantly calibrating and adjusting itself to get better results in the future. Nowadays, it can guess random obscure stuff like the pudding that Stu ate at 4 AM in the Rugrats. Pretty random, but the website somehow knows. Moving on. Creepypasta.com. Not going to spend too much time on this one. Creepypasta.com is a website that simply archives every single creepypasta that has ever been created. If you don't know what creepypastas are, they are short stories that are posted to lots of different websites that tell a story that's meant to creep you out in some way. Hence the name Creepypasta. The website compiles all of these stories from all over the internet into one central hub for people to binge in their free time. Anyone can submit their own story, and the website even ranks the top stories. That's basically it for this one. Moving on. Icechewing.com. Icechewing.com is a forum website based on, you guessed it, chewing ice. At first I couldn't tell if this was someone trolling with fake forum posts, but due to the amount of posts that are actually on the site, I can only assume that everyone that posted on here genuinely loved chewing ice. There are tons of stories from people who claim to have developed an addiction to ice chewing, to others explaining their best way to make good ice. The sheer amount of posts was pretty odd considering the topic at hand. There are well over 2,000 posts on the site, with a total of 4,292 members. It doesn't look like anyone can become a member nowadays, but there does still exist a login feature on the website for those lucky enough to have an account. The last post appears to have been made in May of 2017, with no other signs of life on the site. There does appear to be users browsing the website according to this nice Who Is Online counter at the bottom. Moving on. MrDoob.com. This is where I feel the websites start getting a little bit weird. Mr. Doob is a collection of various mini games, I would say. I really don't know what to call these, but basically the website has this collection of cards at the top, and clicking on any one of them changes the activity on your screen. As of right now, the available activities I saw when researching are as follows. The multi-user sketchpad where everyone on this tab can draw on a white page. 3JS sketches, which just plays crazy 3D animations. Obsidian, this one plays a weird music video for an upbeat techno song. Beach balls, this one creates beach balls every time you click. Google Space, the Google Gravity ripoff. Webcam displacement, which is the one that I didn't actually play because I didn't want it to use my webcam, so I don't know what it does, but I can only imagine. Magic Dust, which just lets you play with magic dust and you have the ability to change the size and color of it. Winning Solitaire. This tab was actually pretty hilarious. It just plays the winning animation for Solitaire each time you click. Voxel's Liquid, which is one of the weirder parts of the site. This one just follows your mouse around, creating these weird square waves. Sphere. This one's just a spinning sphere. Clouds, which just shows clouds. Disturb. This one distorts any image you drop inside of it. Voxels, the Minecraft wannabe tab. Internet Explorer 6, which just generates the Internet Explorer error message over and over again. Or they say another music type animation, plane deformations, which is just very fucking trippy. I mean, good God, each time you click on this one, it changes to something else. Water type, which just lets you type in waves. 3JS, a collection of artworks. Harmony, a solo version of the Sketchpad. Zoom Blur, this one just lets you simulate creating an eclipse. Rotozoomer, which zooms in and out of this weird image of what I think is Satan. Fire, this one's just a fire simulation. The next 6 are Water Remix, Water, and then 3 tabs that are called Branching. All of these basically entail the same exact thing, which is showing a prefixed obscure animation that you can mess with by simply clicking on the website. Finally, we have the last 2 tabs, which are 3D Waveform and Checkbox Painter. 3D Waveform is literally a 3D waveform of an audio titled Slumber by EEDL. Checkbox Painter is also exactly that. It's a painting tool that lets you click and drag to draw, but instead of using normal lines, you use checkboxes. That's all the tabs on the website. I mean, what a freaking website. I can't even imagine how much work went into this one. Very obscure, but you guys will see that later down in this list that this one isn't even scratching the surface for how big and crazy some of these websites can get. But I will say some of the animations on this site are very freaking cool because of how hard they are to comprehend. Props to the man himself, Mr. Doob, for creating such a behemoth of a website. Moving on. Republiquedesmangues.fr. I honestly have no idea how to pronounce this website. This entire site just displays one page that has a mango on it with a spiral background emitting light and spinning. That's basically it. Moving on. scpwiki.com. SCP Wiki is just the Wikipedia for the SCP Foundation. What is the SCP Foundation? Well, the SCP Foundation is basically a part of the SCP community. The SCP community is a community based around telling stories about these so-called SCPs. An SCP is any horrifying, disturbing, fantastic, or otherwise unnatural objects or creatures that appear on our reality. Usually a post on the SCP Wiki will start with the words SCP followed by a random number. This number represents this specific monster or event that took place involving an otherworldly entity. There are thousands of these posts that you could probably waste an entire year reading through. Moving on. GrandmaPartyHotlines.com. Going on to GrandmaPartyHotlines.com will bring you to this page where you see a spinning black triangle with the hotline phone number written all over it. If you call the hotline, you will hear this voicemail play to you from supposedly your grandma. Let's listen.
Hello, welcome to the Grandma Party Hotline. It's so good to hear from you. I miss you so much. Please leave me a message or sing me a song. Oh, how I love to hear from you.
After hearing this, you'd leave a voicemail, and in due time, it would end up on the website for everyone to hear. At least, that's what I assume is going on. There are only 660 available messages to listen to right now. I imagine there are way more messages than just 660, but the ones that have been posted to the website and to YouTube as a whole total 660. I called the hotline myself and left a message, but who knows if they're ever going to post it. The Instagram for the website hasn't been active since 1 year ago, so I think it's safe to assume that the website is on a hiatus for the time being. Moving on. This actually brings us to layer 2 of the entire iceberg. Layer 2's entries are mostly those websites that you may have used in the past to prank or troll your friends. YoushouldHaveSeenThis.com. YoushouldHaveSeenThis.com is a website that has a list of 99 things that Greg Rutcher believes you should have experienced on the internet. Most of what is on this website is links to classic YouTube videos like Chocolate Rain or The Star Wars Kid, while other links direct you to random websites that I hadn't heard of until now, such as burninpixel.com, which has a dancing baby animation, or postsecret.com, which invites you to anonymously share your own personal secret. There are many other links to obscure websites like the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster or homestarrunner.com. Majority of the links do work, but unfortunately a handful of them either have had their videos taken down or the website's domain wasn't renewed. Moving on. Zor.de. Going on to this website will bring you to an all black screen with a selector on the bottom that says previous or next. Clicking on either one will randomly show you a white screen and play a random song that the website has in store for you. Most of the songs don't seem to be in the same category. I got some techno songs played here and there, with some other disturbing slow songs thrown into the mix. Nothing too creepy here. Moving on. StaggeringBeauty.com. Staggering Beauty is a website that tracks your mouse and moves this worm-looking thing to follow your mouse movements. Now before I explain what the weird part of this website is, I have to give you all a light flashing epilepsy warning because this website goes fucking crazy. It's so bad that the website even has its own warning in the bottom left. So take this as your warning to not watch this segment and go ahead and skip to the next entry. So what seems like a fun and innocent website on the surface takes a weird turn if you move your mouse faster and faster. If you move your mouse fast enough, the website goes from this to, well, this. Pretty obscure. I actually found this website years ago on my own when I first discovered the uselessweb.com because it's one of the websites that the useless web will redirect you to. I remember getting scared because of how unexpected the flashing lights were, not to mention the sound that plays. There's actually a super loud heavy metal sounding thing that plays once you start moving the mouse this fast. Moving on. DeathDate.info. DeathDate.info is one of those websites that predicts the date of your death. Pretty self-explanatory. The thing that separates this website in my opinion is how much information they take down from you before calculating your death date. I'm sure that the website doesn't actually do anything with this information, but it does add to the overall scary nature of calculating your death date. Even though it's just a phony website, I've always been too scared to actually calculate my own information through it. Leave a comment below if you share this same mindset. Moving on. Simulation-argument.com. The Simulation Argument is a website dedicated to archiving the best pieces of information regarding the idea that we are living in a computer simulation. That's basically all there is to it. I browsed through a good amount of links hoping to find something very creepy, but that's basically all there was. Moving on. Stealthboats.com. Stealthboats.com is just another fun website when you understand the joke. The website looks completely empty with only a few lines of text at the top that read, Stealthboats.com, your free resource for stealth boat pictures. Stealth boats cannot be seen by radar or humans. The obvious joke here is that the website is blank, but this line of text suggests that it isn't blank. You just can't see it. I'm sure everyone that's watching this understands that even without me having to explain it, but hey, you never know. Another thing to note about this website is there is a hyperlink at the bottom that says more pointless sites, and it takes you to this website called pointlesssites.com. This one is also another website that just puts you around to other pointless websites. With that said, let's move on. Scary-maze.com. This is a classic website that everyone has gone on. And just so your heart can rest assured, there won't be a jump scare in this section, so you can keep watching the video instead of hiding in the comments. This website was one of the first classic websites where people would prank their friends by jump scaring them. The way the jump scare would work is you would go onto the website and begin playing through this maze. The first two levels are relatively easy, with the third level getting a tiny bit difficult at the end. This is where the jump scare would occur. As soon as you put your mouse cursor to reach this part of the level, a picture taken from The Exorcist would pop up and a loud scream would be played. This began a huge trend of people posting videos of them pranking their friends or kids by having them play the game. Comment below if you remember pranking people with this, or if you were the one getting pranked. Moving on. DownloadMoreRAM.com. DownloadMoreRAM.com is a troll website for people on the internet that don't know how computers work. The website itself looks pretty darn professional and appears to be an actual business that relies on people downloading RAM to their computer. If you go onto the site and click on download, it takes you down to the plans. After selecting your plan and clicking download, you get to this screen that says you've successfully downloaded RAM. Obviously, this isn't actually doing anything to your computer, but hey, a man can dream. This website has a funny Easter egg though if you click on the read more button. If you click on read more, it Rick rolls you by opening Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up in another tab. Moving on. Endless.Horse. Endless.Horse is one of those random useless websites that brings joy to my heart just because it exists. The website is called Endless.Horse for a reason. Going onto the actual site, you'll be brought to this typed up version of a horse with very, very long legs. Now, I don't know if this is actually infinite, but to my knowledge, no one has actually tested it, so I guess we don't know for sure, but as you can see, I've just been scrolling through the page for the past 30 seconds and it feels as though there is no end in sight. So I think it's safe to say that this site is being truthful. With that said, let's move on to layer 3. From here on out, I didn't really know what to name the layers because of how random and obscure they get, so let's just get right into it. JurassicSystems.com. This is where we start getting into some of the really cool websites. If you have seen the original Jurassic Park films, then you should remember this scene where Ray tries breaking into the security grid, only to be met with this message. This website is dedicated to recreating this entire scene. If you type in the same exact phrases that Ray does in the movie, you will actually experience the scene for yourself. Start by typing access security, then access security grid, then access security grid one more time, and then this animation will play out just like in the movie. It will fill up the screen with the phrase, "You did not say the magic word," and then you get this cute animation with the audio playing, just like in the movie. Moving on. YourEverydayTheorist.com. The website originally just has a picture of these 3 smiley faces with the text that says, "You are an idiot." This then infects your computer with a bunch of pop-up windows that say the exact same thing, rendering you unable to use your computer. That's all I was able to find without going onto the site myself. I did try to go on the website at first, but it says unavailable or it's not in use anymore. However, I read that it's supposed to be youareanidiot.org, not .com, but I don't want to test that theory out of fear of getting a virus. Moving on. Pogostick.org. So this one is a bit of a trip. Unlike the other websites, I can't seem to find the purpose of this one. Going onto the basic bare bones website, which is just pogostick.org, will bring you to this screen with a tab on your browser stating the phrase, "Look into my eyes." All you can seemingly do on this page is just look at the background, but if I type in pogostick.org into Google instead of the URL search bar, I was able to get to this other part of the site. It seems as though the website has a bunch of users that can post their own stuff to it. I don't know how they're able to do this or who is a member on the site, but some of the stuff that this specific user named Rob posts is pretty obscure and weird, such as this picture that simply says thekiller.png, which is a screenshot taken from a police website that has a murder case on it, which also has a YouTube link on the picture, but it doesn't work anymore. There are tons of links like this one on this specific user's page, so God knows how many other users are posting similar content through this website. Moving on. Scrump.net. Going on to Scrump.net brings you to this page that says "Nothing to see here" with a very blurry and lit up picture of the forest. In the picture, you can see the poem "The Tiger" by William Blake is written in its entirety inside of the photo. I don't really have an explanation for this website other than it's just rather obscure. Comment below if you know the origins of Scrump.net or anything of the sort, as I will likely do a small follow-up video going over anything I missed in this entire iceberg. Moving on. PlaneCrashInfo.com. Plane Crash Info is an archive of all of the world's plane crashes. If there was a plane crash that happened, you can bet it's on this website. The cool thing about this one is how easy they explain the crashes. They all have the details separated, from the amount of fatalities, to the location, to even the flight number and airline. The disturbing part of this website comes if you dig further into it. They have an entire section dedicated to last words that are actual recordings of people that have died on the flights. Most of them are taken from the captain's headsets that are always recording during flights. I'm going to play one for you guys, so if you don't want to hear it, skip to this timestamp. With that said, here's one example. The website is full of recordings such as this one. There are other tabs in the site such as the usual accidents, which go over weird and obscure reasons for flight crashes, such as this one which states that a passenger brought a crocodile on board, which scared passengers to one side of the airplane, causing imbalance and ultimately loss of control of the flight. If you got time to waste, you can go on this website along with any of the other sites in the description below. Moving on. Thisman.org. Thisman.org is a website dedicated to the people of the world who claim to have seen this man in their dreams. A quick history on who this is. This picture is a fathomed up picture drawn up by someone who claimed that this figure here visited them frequently in their dreams. Around the time that this picture surfaced on the internet, tons of other people also came out explaining that they have also had this man haunt them in their dreams. The website itself claims that it was made in order to help those who have seen this man in their dreams and to foster a communication among them, and also to understand just who this man is and why he appears apparently in a patternless array of situations in dreams of such diverse human subjects. The weird part of all of this is that in a lot of the dreams that I read over in the dreams section, the man isn't really evil but is instead a nice man with good intentions. A lot of the dreams describe him as making them feel safe and okay. This has spawned many theories, from people thinking that he might be the all-powerful creator manifesting himself in their dreams, while others believe that this man is so common due to the man's face being very generic, to the point that it's just your brain's version of the average man. Nonetheless, this website does in fact exist and even has a contact page if you want to email your own personal dreams into whoever runs the site. Moving on. LastMealsProject.com. The Last Meals Project is a project that compiles various criminals that were executed by the death penalty. The website shows a picture of the inmate along with their last meals posted over their mugshot. The disturbing part is the truth behind this entire project, which is the fact that some of these people's crimes aren't as bad as others. From first-time offenders, to minors tried as adults, to even people that were exonerated after being executed. Of course, these people are in jail for a reason, but this website serves the purpose of making us take a look at the death penalty and question whether it's really the correct decision or not. I personally think we should have the death penalty because I'm an eye for an eye kind of person. Obviously, it's not just as simple as you murdered someone so now you're going to die, because for me it's a case-by-case thing, but I do think the death penalty should be there just to keep people in check, because if it's gone, the worst you can get is life in jail. And with the amount of institutionalization that goes on in the US, I don't think it's smart for us to get rid of it entirely. I got a tiny bit creeped out of this website just because it feels very eerie if you use the play feature. Using the play feature just scrolls through the entire website's inmates. You watch as the inmates come in and out of your view, wondering what it must have been like to be in their position, seeing what they had to eat. This guy even had his meal declined. Moving on. Gempunk.com. This website is very similar to Mr. Doob, with the main difference being the interface. The website looks like a typed out version of a computer, with each letter on the keyboard taking you to a different website. Some take you to obscure websites with no real purpose, while others link you to obscure and disturbing videos such as what you're watching in the background. And also, like Mr. Doob, each one has their own little rabbit hole that you can go down. What you are seeing in the background is all of the different websites that Gempunk.com links you to. Moving on. CrossDivisions.com. CrossDivisions is a pretty big trip. Visiting the site brings you to this non-stop animations of square holes that keep dividing and reforming. Clicking on the site will change the colors as well. I found this to be kind of soothing and trippy at the same time, so I watched it for a good minute before actually writing anything. Very trippy image to see. This one was created by Raphael Rosendahl, who is a Dutch visual artist, so I imagine that this website was made with the intention of being just another art project. Moving on. BigPineapple.com. So this one has a lot to unpack because none of it really makes any sense. Going onto the website, you'll quickly realize how much pages and information there is to take in. This one feels like a huge ARG that no one has bothered to try solving, as there is so many numbers, obscure lettering, and random pictures with links to abduction cases that it feels like there is more to this website than meets the eye. For example, we have this section here which talks about this abduction case of JC Dugard. Why it's on the website, I don't know. Another abduction case that the website puts heavy emphasis on is the case of Daniel Morcombe, with the Wear Red for Daniel campaign being on the website numerous times. which if you don't know, is an annual thing to raise awareness for child safety, with Daniel Mercombe's abduction case being the sole reason for the annual awareness campaign. Other obscurities on the website that raise lots of red flags are the fact that every time I click on a link, it tries downloading an audio file to my computer. I am very hesitant to actually open these files as I don't want to somehow contract a virus. Another big thing that the website talks about is Queensland, which is a state in northeastern Australia. Why Queensland is on the website so much is very unclear to me. You guys will see later in the video, this website actually ties into a few other websites that are down on like layer 7 and layer 8, so we'll go into more detail once I get there. Moving on, HouseCreep.com. HouseCreep.com is a website that tracks and posts houses that have confirmed homicides, involvement with narcotics, general crime, and paranormal activity. You can even do a search around the area that you live in with details on what events took place at the houses in your neighborhood. The disturbing part of the website is when you look at the paranormal section. Story after story, from little ghost boys that haunt a single room in the home to the devil forcing people to do horrible actions. It's honestly pretty interesting to go through and see exactly what happened in some of these houses that you just drive by without giving them a second thought. Moving on, Trilobite.org. Trilobite.org is a very weird website because the name of the site has almost nothing to do with the actual content. The site contains tons of personal anecdotes and snippets from a man's life named Richard Ward. For example, the first thing that grabs your attention on the front page is this picture of a sad little girl with a teddy bear. The story next to it talks about the loss of Richard Ward's mother, Jocelyn Ward, and goes on to explain how the picture on the left was made for Richard Ward to cope with the loss of his mother. Other tabs on the site go in depth on his upbringing, explaining supposedly true stories from him as a child. There's even a full About Me section that goes in depth on how he was born in Oakland, California, then moved to Alaska before he was 6, and then moved back to California, but this time in Stockton. And even weirder, in some of the stories, he does this thing where he crosses out the words as if you aren't supposed to read it. The phrase "I was raised by wolves" is crossed out, and next to it is what is meant to be read instead. There are multiple examples of this throughout the website, which makes me believe that either this man has a very funny sense of humor, or this website is meant to be used as a personal journal and safe space for Richard Ward. The website says that it was last updated August 24th of 2021. So it's clear that this guy is still using the website to this day. Regardless of if there is no explanation, the website exists for those that have time to dive deep into the mind of Richard Ward. Moving on, Windows93.net. This one appears to be a simple virtual OS that you can view online. The website is a simple virtual browser version of Windows 93, almost like a VM software if any of you have used virtual machine before. Nothing out of the ordinary on this site at first glance, but going deeper into it all, you can see quickly how disturbing some of the website is. It has some random creepy GIFs like this one here and other weird viruses that overtake the software. It's full of these little Easter eggs that really have no correlation to each other in any way, shape, or form, and in my opinion, is made to simply shock whoever stumbles upon the website. Funny enough, it actually does a great job mimicking the actual Windows 93 from a long time ago. Moving on, SkywayBridge.com. SkywayBridge.com is a website that I'd classify as a suicide prevention site. Some might not see it as that, but that's how I do. The website archives all of the attempts that have been made to commit suicide via jumping off of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Florida. This place in particular is such a popular spot to commit suicide that there are so many accounts that date back to even 1954. Also, I don't know if this is true, but the website claims that it's the number 4 suicide bridge in the country. The site contains tons of accounts from over the years that almost all include pictures, video, security cam footage, and other personal accounts on the suicide attempts made from random people across the state. That's basically all there is on the site. But there are some other random things that the website has to offer. For example, on the homepage, it gives you a warning about the website, explaining that you shouldn't go into the site if you have a problem with depression or suicide. Choosing to leave the website by clicking on one of the links sends you to one of 3 websites: Staggering Beauty, which is another entry on the list, this website called The Best Website Ever, and this other website that advertises Lang's Cars. All pretty obscure websites to transfer people over to, but okay. Moving on. NobodyHere.com. This one feels very similar to Trilobite.org in that the content on the website pertains to whoever created it. Going onto the site brings you to this page, which is originally in Dutch. Makes sense considering that the man that made the website is in fact Dutch, but thankfully there is an option to enter the site in English and even in Japanese. The site itself has many of these black screens that remind me of those scary dream sequences from the Baphomet Coon videos that I researched a few months ago. To get to most of these parts of the site, you just have to keep clicking. The site even says to do this if you go under the help section. It says just click until you get to an endpoint and start over. The black screens have randomly generated phrases on them that read as though you are reading the site owner's personal thoughts. And that's honestly how I feel this website came to be. Most of what can be read on here feels like the site owner's inner mind rambling on, almost like a personal journal that he can write whatever he wants into and not feel judged. Also, under why he made the website, the person explains that they just like expressing themselves using online animation, text, and programming. Apparently the site started in 1998 and has grown into what we now see today. Moving on. Bong-Cheon Ghost. So I covered this one in my part 3 video to the Disturbing Media Iceberg series, but I'm gonna give you guys a quick rundown for those that missed that video, which by the way, you should totally watch after this one. The Bong-Cheon Ghost is in reference to a website known as comicnaver.com. On this website, there was a webtoon made called the Bong-Cheon Ghost, which tells a story about a girl walking home from school and her encounter with a ghost-like woman that keeps asking where her child is. The disturbing part of the website comes in the form of 2 jump scares, which I will show a slowed down version of. The scary part is that when you are reading the webtoon, your natural instinct if you're scared is to scroll down the page slowly. However, the website knows this and forcibly scrolls down the page to this scary image, forcing a jump scare onto the viewer. Once you get past the scrolling threshold for this part, no matter how hard you try to scroll back up, the page instantly jumps down to the jump scare animation of the woman flying at the screen. All the while, a very creepy, neck-cracking noise would play from your computer. There were 2 jump scares on the website, one at the beginning with the neck turning around and one at the end with the lady jumping towards the screen. The webtoon ends with the revelation that this woman actually committed suicide the night before when she learned that she lost custody of her child, leaving chills in the people that read the entire story. Moving on. RegalFilms.com. Maybe I didn't click through enough on this website, but I didn't find anything on it to be really disturbing. Going on to this one, it just appears to be any normal movie website. The difference here is that most of these movies appear to be very poorly made indie films that are being sold online for people to watch. You can actually watch a lot of these movies on Amazon Prime, and they even link to it on the site. Maybe I'm missing something, but I didn't find anything particularly disturbing. If anything, the most disturbing thing about this site is the bad acting in the movies, but obviously that's just my opinion. Moving on. Homicide.br. Not going to say the entire website name because it's super long, but this one brings attention to the sheer amount of homicides that are done globally. This website starts by playing an animation showing how many people are killed each year in random parts of the world. If you watch the animation for long enough, it starts to dawn on you that people actually had to die in order for you to see these numbers on the screen. Other parts of the site include this section aptly named Killer Facts, which states some interesting facts concerning homicide, such as the first one, which explains how 437,000 homicides happen each year, which is an average of 6.2 murders per 100,000 inhabitants. It's kind of weird that they chose to write that 437,000 people die violently around the world instead of just saying that they're dead. I feel like we as humans have become so desensitized to what these words mean that we really don't understand it until it's said in another fashion. Some of the other facts dive into dangerous cities, victim profiles, and other countries. There's even an about section which simply explains why the website exists. This comes from the creator of the website. They have stated that they wanted the website to stir up debate over the sheer amount of murder that takes place around the world and what we as a whole could do about it. Unfortunately, I believe the last time the website was updated was in 2019, as nothing from 2020 or 2021 can be found on the site today. Maybe it's due to the pandemic, but I have no idea of knowing that. Moving on. This brings us to layer 4, theblackvault.com. TheBlackVault.com is a conspiracy theorist's wet dream, as it contains an archive of over 2 million pages of formerly private government documents. There is even an entire section dedicated to paranormal activity around the globe, as well as a whole community section for those to talk and debate amongst each other about what's really going on behind closed doors. A lot of what is being talked about in these posts have actually been covered in my Chart of Truth Iceberg, which is a series that's still going on if you want to check that out after watching this video. The Black Vault isn't disturbing per se, unless you find a distrust in the government to be disturbing. I'd say the most disturbing part of this site is just how much information there is that the government has never released to the public. Most of what is being read right now is stuff from years back, and the fact that a lot of these documents pertain to very taboo subjects like aliens, conspiracies, and other paranormal cases brings to question just how much stuff the government is actually hiding from us. Moving on. Zog.com. This website is another one of those personal journal websites, only this time, the website seems to be linked to Harvey Mudd College in Claremont, California. If you type in Zog.com, it actually redirects itself to this URL, which is www.cs.hmc.edu. If you just simply type in cs.hmc.edu, it's the computer science page for Harvey Mudd College. Visiting Zog.com brings you to this page that reads, "Welcome to Planet Zog." The website was created by Ian Darke, and each of these circles takes you to one of 4 different pages that are personal to him: his photo gallery, his personal works, personal writing projects, and digital artworks. The weirdest part of the website is definitely under his personal tab, specifically when you click on favorite links. The page turns into this black page with flames going down to the bottom. A bit disturbing, but I think this is more just a deep dive into Ian Darke's mind more than anything else. I actually kind of like these personal journal websites to dump your thoughts into like this. It's very interesting and honestly a lot cooler than having a regular journal. Moving on. Visionaryforevolution.wordpress.com. This website is for those that oppose authority. This, as you can see, is a WordPress blog site which contains tons upon tons of blog posts, with almost every single one showcasing some kind of anti-authoritarian view, from posts about government propaganda to artificial terrorism. There are hundreds of posts dating all the way back to November of 2007, with its first post being a welcome post that was made on November 16th of 2007. This gives a tiny bit of insight into the blog itself, explaining that this blog is a space for the radical's radical, whatever that means. It's clear that this website sought out to accomplish some goal of bringing in more people to this ideology, but nothing ever came of it. Moving on. Grotto.Faith websites. There are 3 separate websites that end in .grotto.faith. Those websites are called Bornless, Crypt, and Solomon. All of these websites are pretty similar in terms of how they make the viewer feel and their interactiveness, so I figured I'd clump them up together instead of having them separate like they are on the Iceberg. Let's start with bornless.grotto.faith. Right when you get into this site, you can hear someone talking about Jesus Christ and religion. It almost sounds like someone's giving a speech at a church. If it's a famous speech, then I guess I just don't know about it, but it sounds like mostly nonsense to me. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will see a button that says Enter. Clicking on it brings you to this page with a color changing background, all the while ominous music begins blaring out of your speakers. This seems to be a dead end, with the only thing left to do is type in a question into the search bar and it answers it, much like a magic 8-ball. On to crypt.grotto.faith. This one for me was the creepiest one. Once you get into this site, you are met with this moon floating with the words that say crypt. Clicking on it, it glitches your screen out, filling it with static, then bringing you to another page with static in the background, only this time there are 3 objects floating around: a question mark, a train, and a glass of milk. Clicking on the train brings you to this scene where you choose your destination, heaven or hell. Choosing hell brings you to this disturbing page where your cursor changes into an inverted cross, then the page sends you back to the first page, only this time it's very distorted and creepy looking. Going back and choosing heaven doesn't seem to do much either, as the page for heaven doesn't exist. Maybe that's like a metaphor for something, but anyways, the other 2 options do basically the same thing. The milk gives you the choice to take the milk from this milkman or to not take it. Taking the milk brings you to this page, while choosing not to take it brings you to this disturbing image of the milkman. The question mark brings you to this wise old man, and you can talk to him by asking questions that are pre-programmed for you. All of the questions bring you to pretty normal answers, except for this one that says, why does any of this exist? Clicking and asking this question brings you to this ominous screen. With that said, let's go on to Solomon.Grotto.Faith. Nothing on this page is clickable besides the link, which sends you to an 8-page PDF on masculine and feminine symbolism in the Kabbalah. Other than this PDF, there's not really much nuance to the website. There is the obvious weird symbolism plastered right on the front with all these random numbers and names at the bottom. As for what they mean though, I don't really understand it. With that said, let's go on to the next item on the iceberg, Fleeb.com. Fleeb.com starts you off with this message from the creator talking about a card that they received from their sister. The person even wrote what the sister said in the card. She wrote the following: "Something to mask the sound of your miserable, shriveling soul as it descends into hell." Pretty dark if you ask me. This is probably the most disturbing part of the page, especially with all of these eyes in the background just staring at you. The rest of the site besides the archives page is pretty normal. There's even this really cool section called Circle Denticons, which gives you a unique circle profile picture by simply typing your name into the search bar in the top right. There's not much else to explore on the site besides what I've already said. Moving on. KomedaLoveMail.tumblr.com/hollow. This one was actually really freaking cool. It's also one of the more disturbing entries on the list. Going onto the Komeda website lands you on this page, which shows a clown in a restaurant or classroom type of setting. What happens next plays out like a visual novel if you guys have any experience with that. You just click through the dialogue talking to this clown named Komeda, which is a reference to the Danganronpa character named Nagito Komeda. Going through the dialogue seems entirely normal. One of the weirdest parts of the site though is that all of the lines are actually voice acted with this very ominous sounding voice. As you click through, you get to this part right here where suddenly the visuals change to this red style background. Clicking on the red balloon takes you to this cave. Here you talk to what appears to be the real Komeda, and then you go through the same line of dialogue and you meet another Komeda, this time in the form of a comic. At which point the entire thing ends with a wall of text basically saying that the creator didn't realize that anyone would make it this far, even writing at the end, "I lost my train of thought." This entire experience takes over, I'd say, 15 to 20 minutes to go through if you just read the entire thing. If you're just clicking through, it takes maybe like 5 minutes. I honestly think this is one of the cooler sites on the entire list because it really does feel interactive and it feels like an actual free game that you can play on your computer. If you and a friend want to go onto this website, go ahead and check the description below. Moving on. Kekma.ga. Kekma.ga is the original link to the website, however now it's called Kekma.net. For the sake of staying monetized and saving your eyeballs, I'm not going to be showing the main attraction on this website because it would definitely get this video taken down. Also, before we get into the site, I have to give you guys yet another flashing light and epilepsy warning because this site does contain flashing images, so if you guys can't watch that for whatever reason, please skip to the next item on the list. Alright, consider yourself warned. The website starts off by showing a box saying if you want to enter or not. Choosing to enter immediately makes the website freak out and you instantly start hearing loud sounds just emitting from the website with a constant loop playing of a man that got his face mauled by a bear. All the while a disgusting video of a guy basically just mutilating his genitalia plays out. I'm not going to go into detail, but the man has a metal screw and he's pushing it inside. Well, you know. It's very gory and I honestly don't think you guys should go on the website if you're squeamish. That's basically all there is to this site, so let's just move on already. Vozo.com. This website's link also has changed from Vozo.com to Vozo.org. The website is full of these mouse-looking creatures and has links to various websites such as random websites to get emulators and ROMs off of, links to various lewd celebrity images, and even has a link to a random website about 9/11. Nothing out of this one was particularly disturbing, but more so just random. None of these topics have any commonality with each other, so I'm having trouble discerning why they were even on the website to begin with, but enough said, let's move on. Firedragon.com. Going to the initial website brings you to this black page that says FD Computer Systems. The only pages that work on this page are Kier's homepage and Carl Peterson's homepage. Kier's homepage is just another personal entry dump, explaining why he made the website, talking about his interests, basically just diving deep into his life. The weird part of this one comes from this section called My Dragon Side. In this section, he explains how he isn't human. He starts by saying that he always felt like he wasn't completely human and that he must be some other species. Somehow, he came upon the revelation that he is an 8'6", 850-pound dragon with a red and black coloring. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a metaphor or some secret code because I feel like I'm missing something here. This might just be another one of those fantasy journal entries where the creator dumps their feelings and thoughts into a page just for fun. I honestly don't know where else to go, so let's go on to Carl Peterson's homepage. This homepage feels like a mini ARG with so many random uncorrelated links, such as this section which is about these random sketches from someone named Donald McCon, with other sections diving into random history on the Civil War, the Colwell family, and John Cree. As for any outright disturbing parts, I couldn't find any on this section of the website. Leave a comment below if you've visited firedragon.com before any of the other sites were taken down, as I'd love to know what the other homepages had to offer. Moving on. Hosanna1.com. Hosanna1.com is a website dedicated to Afghan hounds. Visiting the website brings up this very nasty looking UI homepage. I mean, just look at all of this. It's so disorganized that your eye honestly doesn't know where to rest besides this big ass angel dog in the center. The most disturbing part of the page is the fact that scrolling down further on the site reveals the background becoming more and more distorted, as if you are being dragged down underneath the earth. I was honestly too afraid to click on anything on the site because it looks like a big freaking virus attractor. Even getting into the website, Google kept telling me not to go in, but I'm gonna just leave it at that. Moving on. Theomatics.com. So I spent a good amount of time on this website and it said a whole lot of nothing if I'm being completely honest. Theomatics is a website dedicated to the study of theomatics. What is theomatics, you ask? Theomatics is the idea that God put some sort of numerical system or code throughout the entire Bible. The problem I've been having since hearing this definition is figuring out why and what message the code delivers. From what I've gathered reading like 15 pages on the site, is that theomatics scientifically proves God's existence or at least some sort of divine intervention. The problem I'm having though is that a lot of the examples make no logical sense, and maybe that's the point. The website says it's supposed to be taken seriously, but for all I know, it's a satire on the lengths that people will go to in order to convince people that God really does exist. I really don't know how I feel about the website as a whole. If it's to be taken serious, it's a complete joke. If it's meant as a satire, good fucking job, because holy shit, there is like tons upon tons of information about the Bible and scripture that I can't even believe this website even exists. Moving on. GlennFloyd.org. GlennFloyd.org is a website dedicated to some person out there named Glenn Floyd who wants to run for the Senate. There is much emphasis on this website about how the government is utilizing vaccines, donations, and laws in order to control the masses. Glenn Floyd, on the other hand, wants to attain Senate status without donations and wishes to put an end to, in his words, the man he regards as a profoundly evil, drug-pushing, mass-scale serial killer, which happens to be Patrick McGorry, who is a scientist responsible for studies that go against Glenn Floyd's beliefs. He links his own YouTube channel of the same name, which goes further in depth on slandering Patrick's research, calling him a liar and showing his so-called lies on this video. Whether you choose to believe this level of corruption is up to you. Regardless of what you believe in though, GlennFloyd.org will be there as a testimony to Glenn Floyd's efforts to get elected in 2022 for Senate. Moving on. RunTheGauntlet.org. RunTheGauntlet.org is very similar to BestGore.com, only it has some pretty random and just upright fucking disgusting videos. I can't really show any visuals, so I'm just going to describe to you guys what I've seen because I don't think I can get away with showing the videos I watched. One of the videos had a woman with one of those teeth separators that the dentists use. While it's in her mouth, she attached some type of plastic rubber, which I assume is a condom, and the guy pulls it out and then flings the liquids back into her mouth, and pretty fucking gross. Obviously we all know it's probably in that. I'm not going to say it outright, but these are the types of videos that are on the website, from cartel members being murdered right on camera to even deadly bar fights. You can find it all on here. I will say though, there was an unusual number of porn videos on the site, like just straight up porn. Despite that though, there are still tons of very gory and unfortunate events that take place in these videos. I suggest not going onto this site if you can't handle going on Best Gore, which if you might not know about, bestscore.com is basically the same exact website as Run the Gauntlet. It has since been taken down as of 2020, but when it was up and running, you could basically find the same type of videos on bestscore.com that you could find on runthegauntlet.org. The slogan on this website in particular even states, "The most vile, puke-inducing, and hard-to-watch videos on the internet." I'm just gonna leave it at that. Moving on. Matrix.ws. So this website was actually pretty cool. The only problem is that I can't make any progress on the site. This one seems very similar to the Jurassic Park website, where it intends on taking stuff from the movie and making you do it in real life. In this case, we are in the Matrix movie, as the website starts off by saying "Knock knock Neo." The only thing I've been able to figure out is that you can register and make an account by typing in register, then a username and an email right after. This creates an account for you, but apparently in order to progress further, you have to access the website through a Tor browser, but even then, no one has figured out the site's commands, and the furthest anyone has got is this line of text that reads brute forced followed by a bunch of gibberish. Leave a comment below if you know how the website works and how to progress further on it. Moving on. This brings us to layer 5 of the entire iceberg. Okay, so for this next item, all of these websites that are on screen were made by the same guy named Allah Irawa via COD, and they're all pretty freaking similar. They all tie into these same ideologies and use a lot of the same imagery as well as the same UI design, so I'm just going to explain the most interesting one, which I believe is artificialgems.com. Going on to artificialgems.com brings you to this page with a big psychedelic looking diamond on the front that moves every time you put your mouse near it. As you can see, there is a ton of text. Basically what the first half of the text talks about is gems, specifically talking about how gems are cut, questioning why gem cutters get paid if all they do is program a robot to do their work. Diving further into the rabbit hole, the author of the site goes mad, repeating the statement, "If robots do all the work for us, would we not have to work, or is there no connection between getting goods produced cheaper and getting goods in our homes cheaper?" This statement is repeated 5 times with an exclamation point being added each time. The rest of the site talks about a new invention, the solar power generator. There isn't too much disturbing imagery on the site besides this image showing an example of the solar power being used. Other than that though, the site's pretty tame in nature, and I honestly don't know why it's so low, because in my opinion this one should be a lot higher than some of the entries. Moving on. ObsidianSnow.net and HekateStation.net. So these websites were kind of a trip. There was actually so much to do on this site that I'll share just some of my favorite parts. First off, the site itself is one of those click-through adventure type sites where you just keep clicking and enjoy the ride until you can't click no more. It starts you off on the first page, which is this triangle made of circles. This page is ObsidianSnow.net. Now clicking on any one of these circles takes you to other pages on a website known as HekateStation.net. And then clicking on anything on that page sends you to another one, and so on and so forth. Some of the pages I ended up on are as follows. This weird spider page where live spiders take over the screen. This weird site which is just a triangle that turns into this angel looking symbol. This one that has all of these weird obscure playing cards, and another one with these weird ritual looking books and tablets. If you're watching this hoping for me to explain what this means, I'm just as lost as you are, and some posts by Redditors suggest that there isn't any end goal to the site. Tons of people began digging into the site but came up short. This person even wrote that there was no carrot at the end of the stick, insinuating that basically trying to explain the site and get some meaning out of it will result in failure, as there is basically no end game for the site at all. Moving on. ThisThatNow.com. So I'm gonna have to give you guys another epilepsy warning for this one. This site is literally one big seizure-inducing animation with no clickable links from what I was able to find. I'm going to play the animation that the website shows. If you don't want to watch, I recommend using the chapters in the play bar to skip to the next entry. Here is the clip. As you can see, it's very hard not to strain your eyes watching this one. That's basically the entire site from what I was able to find, as there is no clickable links or anything besides this animation that plays in the background. Moving on. Mouchette.org. Okay, so I don't know why, but this is one of the few websites that actually got to me. It has a picture of a little girl on the top left, with the background being a very detailed picture of what I think is a flower. All the while there are flies and ants moving back and forth on the screen. There's quite a lot to unpack here for this one website, so let's start by going over some of the most shocking pieces on the site. First, we have this page talking about suicide kits, which is a personal invention by the website's author. It even allows you to leave an entry on the website, which is then archived in real time. It seems as though this website is actually visited quite often, even by today's standards, as there are people leaving messages as recent as August 20th of 2021. There's also this jump scare that occurs sometimes where you have to click this cat pop-up on your screen and it fidgets around like crazy until you're able to click this button that kills the cat, then bringing you to another page called "Why did you kill the cat?" Other obscurities on the site include this form that you can fill out to have a private encounter with Mouchette, and lastly a weird page that is only accessed by clicking on the fly at the beginning of the main page. Clicking on the fly brings you to this one that shows a button flying around with the words "Kill me" written on it. Managing to click on the button brings you to this black matrix-esque screen where a pre-typed animation plays out, with the author of the site having a mental breakdown about you killing him. There is a lot more to explore with this site, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, but as I've said before, most of these sites could easily have their own 40-minute video, and if I'm going to cover them all, I feel like it's necessary to just give a general idea of what to expect instead of giving a very in-depth 20-minute explanation. Moving on. 973@namu973.com. This website starts off on a main page with a triangle shape made of letters. The only clickable part of this page is at the top where it says "A Maze In." Clicking on that brings you to this page with these three obscure Doctor Strange-esque animated shapes. Clicking on either one of these brings you to the main site, which on the surface appears to be like most of the other random websites with obscure lettering, random numbers, and nightmare-fueling pictures that get shown every time you click on the right arrow at the bottom. This website though, unlike a good amount of the other websites, has a pretty reasonable explanation for the content on it. The creator of the site has been confirmed to be David Dennison, who is an artist, and all of the artwork on the site are originally his pieces. It is known that David has an interest in mathematics, which is why they are so prevalent on the website. Many users have taken to the internet to unlock the truth behind the site, but I personally believe it is just another creative way for him to have his portfolio of artworks together on one site. There is a lot more nuance to this entry, and I do feel as though there is some sort of puzzle to figure out at the end of all of this. There are just way too many random connections to humans, religion, and the number 9 for it not to be some type of ARG. For example, the name of the website is called 973@namu because if you spell each part of that backwards, it makes up the sentence 379, the human. 379 is the area code for Vatican City, which obviously links itself to religion, with the phrase the human referencing people going on the page. As for the number 9, there are many different instances in which the number 9 is blatantly thrown around in the viewer's face, such as the first page on the site with the maze. I know I said the only clickable link is with the words on the top, but there's actually another space that you can click on. If you click the space above the first A on the phrase "A Maze In," it brings you to this page which just shows a blurred out number 9. Of course, people have tried explaining the site in terms of the puzzle, but it seems to be that nothing has ever come of it. Some believe the website's creator, David Dennison, is actually clinically insane, which means we won't be able to solve it, while others believe Dennison is simply a genius that has made the site too difficult to solve. Moving on. YvettesBridalFormal. YvettesBridalFormal in its early days appeared to be a site that was meant to advertise the business known as YvettesBridalFormal. This business sold wedding dresses and other wedding apparel. The site even had tons of pictures of the wedding dresses on the front page, and despite the horrible UI design of the site, it seemed pretty normal. However, there are obviously well over 20 clickable links just on the first part of the page, and scrolling down reveals more obscure 3D art pieces that have almost no relevance to the wedding dress business. Other obscure parts of the site include pages about alien conspiracies, and a page based around the Salem witch trials. The only explanation I was able to find for the website comes from this video made by Atrocity Guide, which deduces that the creator of the site was a man named Sean. Sean wrote some books of his own, and was called by the Yvette Bridal Company to make a website for their business. Instead of just making a normal website, Sean took it upon himself to create, in his eyes, a more untraditional website that would grab the viewer's attention. And props to him, because this is truly an artistic masterpiece. The rabbit hole that Sean has created is one that definitely got the attention that it deserved. Now, this isn't confirmed, as I'm just blindly trusting the Atrocity Guide's word, but I don't have a reason not to, so let's just leave it at that. Moving on. Thisisnotporn.com. This entry is a very simple website with not much to do. The main page is this page that looks like a playable animation of a stove with a pause and play button plastered right on the bottom. There's also a t-shirt and restroom icon at the bottom right of the site. Pushing the play button causes some very creepy old school jazz music to play, which made me feel like I was about to go on the Tower of Terror at California Adventure. The music plays and nothing appears to be happening until you notice a flash on the oven. Clicking on the flash leads to a pop-up appearing that simply states, "He's drowning," with another window stating, "Will you save him?" Clicking OK closes the window out and you are back at square one. Some believe this is part of a bigger ARG, with people dissecting the pop-up window that appears, but nothing has ever come of it from what I can tell. I will say though, this one did disturb me a bit more than the other websites just because of how ominous this one feels. Try going on the site at like 1 AM with only headphones on and you might understand why I felt so creeped out going on this one. Moving on. ProjectPegasus.net. This website didn't outright disturb me, but it does have quite the rabbit hole to go down. ProjectPegasus.net is a website dedicated to the proposed Project Pegasus. What is Project Pegasus? It's said that Project Pegasus is a US government project that entails time travel. More specifically, it started in the 1960s by sending little children throughout time and space for research purposes. The website focuses on the so-called first time traveler, which is nicknamed Andy, after the creator of the site, Andrew Basiago. The website details a bunch of times that Andy spoke at conferences, conventions, and other community meetups, with each story having a link to its own independent website that's supposed to further evidence of his travels. Now, as far as I know it, Andrew Basiago is a real attorney based in Seattle, and he is the one behind all of these claims. The website is doctored up by him as shown at the bottom of the site, and he has gone on record multiple times talking about Project Pegasus. There are even separate videos on the internet, such as this one posted in 2012, which has pictures taken from his supposed 2016 election. The weirder part is that it is confirmed that he did in fact run for the 2016 election, but he was just an independent candidate that didn't get nearly the amount of attention that these pictures claim that he did. Nonetheless, it feels like one big conspiracy that Andrew is trying to convince us is true. I personally don't believe the Project Pegasus is a real thing just because of how complicated real-time travel would be, but there was so much work put into the site and the surrounding sites that makes me not 100% certain that it's fake. Moving on. alturl.com/p749b. This URL was used back in the day when Rickrolling was prevalent. It's basically just a shortened URL of the original Rickroll video, which was simply titled Rickroll. Nowadays, people recognize the Rickroll link as this URL ending in XCQ, but back when Rickrolling started, the original URL link was this one. Because of how popular it became, most internet users knew what link to look out for to avoid being Rickrolled, at which point alturl.com/p749b was created. This URL was utilized by many to Rickroll their friends without them knowing it was a YouTube video link. There are even screenshots of people sending the link to troll their college classes. I don't see why this one is so far down on here. I feel like this was included as a way to attempt to Rickroll whoever researched the iceberg, but obviously, the original video that it linked to has been taken down, so it's safe to say that I dodged a bullet on this one. Moving on. 5nchronicles.blogspot.com. So this website is rather disturbing once you realize what you are reading. At first glance, this is just your average blogging site, but the posts you are reading come from an inmate on federal death row. The inmate is serial killer Joseph E. Duncan III. So before we dive into the website, I think it's important to note who this guy was and what he did to land himself on death row. His criminal history started at the very young age of 15. As a teenager, Duncan raped a 9-year-old boy at gunpoint. After this incident, he went on to sexually assault 6 other boys, at which point he was assigned a personal therapist. It's reported that he told the therapist that he actually raped 13 younger boys by the time that he was 16. And the list of crimes and charges doesn't stop there. After being put in prison in 1980 for stealing guns and raping yet another 14-year-old kid, he would get off on parole in 1994, at which point he would commit 2 murders, which at the time were not linked to him. He actually got away with these murders for a few years, but was sent back to prison in 1997 for an unrelated incident in which he violated the terms of his parole. Being released again in 2000 for good behavior, he would murder 3 more people around 2005. These 3 bodies were found along Lake Coeur d'Alene. The 3 victims were named Brenda Groan, her boyfriend Mark McKenzie, and her son Slade Groan. At the time, there were 2 other children that Brenda had named Dylan and Shasta. Shasta was found with the murderer at a restaurant at which she was rescued. She revealed that her brother Dylan was murdered along with her entire family, with her being left alive because Duncan believed that she showed him, quote unquote, how to love. Thankfully, this guy was put on death row shortly after this because, like, holy fucking shit, this guy was crazy. Now that you know his background, what about the website? Well, the website is full of Duncan's stories from inside of prison. Originally, the website was called thefifthnail.blogspot.com, which was started back in 2005 before he was caught by police. However, after being sentenced to life in prison and being put on death row, a new website appeared, which is the one that we see today, called 5andchronicles.blogspot.com. The website was made possible by Joseph Duncan sending out letters to some unknown individual who then posts to the blog on his behalf. The blog posts themselves are pretty mundane and detail his experiences within prison, from posts about him losing his hair, to some about his sudden weight loss, to some crazy posts such as this one, which is about his regional appeal for containing CP in his cell. This one is actually pretty wild. He claims that the lewd picture of the underage girl he had wasn't sexually aggressive, even though the girl was literally naked in the photo. The disturbing part of this entire site is reading through some of the posts. They feel like just any normal person dealing with regular daily issues, but then you realize who is writing this shit and it makes you feel kind of sick to your stomach. There's posts dating back to 2010, with the last post being made in January of 2021, which is a post about the tumor he had, which would eventually be the cause of his death in March of 2021. Moving on. ThinkOfANumber.com. ThinkOfANumber.com is a website dedicated to mentalists and being able to read people's minds. But further investigation led me to find out that this page is somehow linked to the BigPineapple.com. ThinkOfANumber.com links to another website called Gobbledygook, which has references to the 9-apple pineapple, which is obviously linked to the Big Pineapple. The weird thing is that both of these websites keep mentioning the missing figures, which makes me think of missing children just because the phrase is always plastered above pictures of random children that I don't know. Other than that connection though, the website Think of a Number dives into mentalism and reading minds, specifically referencing Lior Suchard multiple times as the only man who can actually read minds through supernatural means. The website also calls out other mentalists numerous times, wanting them to read the mind of whoever made this website. Besides what I've already mentioned, there isn't really anything that disturbed me besides the link to the Big Pineapple site. Moving on. VigilantDream.blogspot.com. Originally, I was going to omit this entry, but I decided not to do that. I feel like this website has no real purpose, at least with the other websites like the entry before. There is some consistency in the posts, like with the BigPineapple.com or even sites like YvettesBridalFormal. There is some consistency in what's being posted, but on this site, it feels like there is 100 different people posting on it at the same time. Posts on this site date back to 2009, with its last post being in 2015. The weird part is that you have some posts that seem totally innocent, such as this post about the TV show True Blood, but then you have posts like this called Requiem Foe the Sea King, or this one called Crescent Moon, Wild Horses and the Grail. And these are like detailed fucking posts, like pages upon pages of long information that is very well thought out and constructed. My problem is that I don't really know how to sum up this website in a few words because there is just so much differing information on it that there doesn't appear to be any big picture idea that links them all together. Moving on. AngusNickNevin.com. Now this website is a prime example of what I expected to see going into this iceberg. AngusNickNevin.com leads you down the rabbit hole of what's known as Terminal 00. The website appears to be very creepy already with its imagery, but it's accompanied by very ominous feeling music, which adds to the overall feel of the site. The site has so many paths that you can take in terms of which links to click through, that there is even an entire subreddit dedicated to solving the website. I'm going to give my little explanation, but I feel that it's imperative that you actually visit the site for yourself. From what I'm aware of, there isn't any jump scares on the site, but there are times where the site can be rather loud, so maybe put your volume down more than normal if you're going to visit this one. All the information I know is as follows. The creator of this site is Angus Eden Drake Nick Nevin, which is what the site is named after. Angus has written a book by the name of Stars Bleed. Now, from reading the fact on the website, excerpts from his Twitter, and interactions that people have had with Angus, it's clear that the website is linked to the book. As for the purpose that the website serves, there doesn't really seem to be an overarching plot, and Angus himself has even said this outright on the fact page. But the website gives more narrative elements and lore that ties into the book that he put out. The website is very immersive. There were many times throughout my adventure on it where I felt unsafe and just overall disturbed. It's just the fact that the website is very glitchy, animated, and has these obscure shapes that move on their own, which add to the overall creepiness of the site. There are no words to sum up this entire thing though, and I'm sure people that have visited the site frequently would agree, as there are over 300 pages filled with little short stories from Angus. There are even little puzzles like this click-through maze, and also cryptic images that people have tried to decipher. Most of what's on the website is filled with dark pages containing flashing images and bright red animated shapes. All the while there is scary music playing in the background with text boxes describing what's happening. I feel like this explanation doesn't even scratch the surface, but again, this could easily have its own hour video just to go over the entirety of the lore. And even then, there's loads of pages that are still being discovered by longtime users to this day. Moving on. Antimatrix.org. Antimatrix.org is a blog post type of website where the author has archived tons of information that I feel coincides with conspiracy theorists. From topics ranging from world domination by world elites to secret societies, and even some posts about ritual sacrifice and straight up murder. Most of what I read on the site pertains to these controversial ideas, but the disturbing part is how in-depth some of these explanations go, such as this entire page which has been dedicated to just Jewish occult murders, talking about how Jews would commit such acts, to discussing the lore and religion behind the decision, ending with the chilling message of how many children disappear each year, linking the missing children to the number of Jewish sacrifices that take place. Keep in mind, this is just one of many articles and posts that the Anti-Matrix has. Most of the articles posted here were not born on this site, however, meaning that the author of the site didn't create these posts by typing them out himself. Most of the posts are taken from other websites and reposted here to become one big central hub for conspiracy theorists to confide in. Some of what I read did make me feel uneasy and skeptical of the world around me, specifically this post titled The Secret Covenant, which discusses an unnamed secret society that is slowly taking over the world without you even realizing it. There isn't any obvious shock factor nor any disturbing imagery on the site, but that doesn't make it any less of a good entry for this list. Moving on. This will actually bring us to layer 6 of the entire iceberg, 1x60.com. So this website is actually the number 1 multiplied by 60.com, meaning that you just type in the number 160 times and then put .com after. And well, I'm gonna just let this one explain itself. This is the only page on the entire site, and it's titled Arnold Sailor Moon. This one has just a bunch of pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger photoshopped onto various Sailor Moon characters, with a King Kong character in the left, and just, I honestly don't even have the words to explain this one. It's just so freaking random. Holding your cursor over some parts of the website reveals images and pictures that pop up in Flash, but nothing is really clickable besides the enter button at the bottom, which just refreshes the entire page. Not much else to be said, let's move on. Sentimentalcorp.org. I was quite disturbed upon initial visit to this one because, well, just look at it. After doing some digging through the site, it's mostly poorly made shot compilation videos that I feel like don't do a really good job of making me feel disturbed. The imagery in the videos is pretty out there, but I feel like there isn't anything on this website that would shock me more than what I've seen on bestscore.com or runthegauntlet.org. From what I've found, it appears that the website was made by director, writer, and editor Randy Prozac. Most of the site is filled with clips from his old projects, which are called The Hospital Tapes, Goat Worship, Anti-Social Media, and Eyes of Randy Prozac. Most of the clips you see feel like random mashups of creepy and disturbing imagery set to some music which I assume is made by Prozac, and put together with some interesting commentary done by Randy as well. If you remember that one scene in The Office where Gabe puts on that disturbing movie during the Halloween party, most of the videos on this site are very reminiscent of that. As for why the website is still up, I think it's along the lines of another portfolio type of website where instead of just showing your work IMDb style, you show it off in a very creative way that fits the style of your work. Moving on. deepbluedream.hunterlounge.com. So there isn't much nuance to this site, and what I mean by this is unlike other sites like Terminal 00, which had some sort of narrative tying the entire thing together, Deep Blue Dream seems to be a compilation of nonsensical GIFs that when put together make me feel sort of disturbed. Upon first investigation of the site, I got that butterfly feeling in my stomach when you see a jump scare for the first time, and this picture is what made me feel that way. All the other imagery on the site includes this picture, which I assume is a magic trick. There's this picture of a lone computer on what appears to be a stage, this fancy GIF of a festival, and tons of images relating to chess, such as this GIF of a chess game being played by itself. As stated before, I wasn't able to piece together any sort of narrative, and from what I can tell, this is the only page on the site. Moving on. Canison.org. From what I was able to find on YouTube, it's a website that endlessly scrolls through what seems to be a never-ending cycle of ASCII art, with the word Tennyson being repeated throughout the entire experience. All the while, there is a loop of dark and ominous music playing on the site. It seems to be mostly just nonsensical messages accompanied by ASCII art. And if you're wondering what ASCII art is, ASCII art is stuff like this. It's just art that is used by typing characters onto a screen instead of actually drawing on something. Moving on. Y7times.info. So for this one, I'm just going to put it on screen because holy shit. The cool thing about this site is that every time you refresh it, a different combination of items shows up. Here's what an actual live refresh would look like. No matter how many times you refresh it, it always comes up with different items. Some people have come out believing that this is an ARG due to web pages like this that just have random numbers in a coded order. There's also very disturbing pages on the site, such as this recently uncovered page which shows security cam footage of someone's bedroom. Now, like a few other websites on the list, there doesn't appear to be a huge narrative that drives people to go further into the website. It just feels like random images and links for randomness sake. There are still new pages being discovered on the site as you watch this video, which speaks volumes as to how much information is just on this one website alone. Some people think that the website is a metaphor for cybersecurity. The idea for this comes from the fact that some of the pictures on the site are taken from random forums across the internet. People believe that the website is able to take screenshots from other sites and then display them on the main page each time you refresh, and that's why the front page looks different every single time. Others think it's just a huge art project, but no matter what you think of this site, it's a super deep rabbit hole that I feel like deserves more attention. The sheer amount of work that went into designing something like this is no easy task, and the fact that people are still finding pages to this day absolutely blows my mind. Moving on. Superbad.com. If you want a seemingly never-ending click-through fest, this is the website for you. Superbad.com has no relation to the movie Superbad, just for those wondering. Now, the first weird part of this site is the homepage. Unbeknownst to me at first, the homepage actually changes every so often. And I don't mean like a few months goes by and it changes, I mean like almost every other week it's something different. In fact, for me starting my research to editing this part of the video, the homepage changed to something new, forcing me to rewrite my script and re-record my audio. Right now, it brings you to this page that says, "Just so you know, we don't blame you." Clicking on any of these words will send you to an entirely different page on the site, and clicking on anything on that site will do the same thing, and so on and so forth until you end up somewhere that's too creepy for you, or you reach a dead end. Just because I can't summarize hundreds of pages into one small snippet, here are some of my favorite pages that I came upon. This page with this gorilla picture on the site that animates as you move through these boxes. This page that kept coming up called What's in the Trunk, which has a long list of other links to go to. This animation which actually scared the absolute shit out of me while researching. Many of the pages fit this obscure demeanor, and none of it seems to work together in a cohesive story. It was made back in the 1990s, and for its time and even now, it was very revolutionary. That page I showed you earlier with the gorilla is one of the original pages on the website, and that animation for the gorilla wasn't something that was normally done back in the day. There doesn't seem to be any two sites that actually correlate together, but who knows? Maybe it's only a matter of time until we get some more knowledge on this site. Moving on. Meta.am. Meta.am is nothing more than a collection of art pieces for this artist known as Meta. The website starts you off on an art piece made by him. Clicking on this little icon in the top right then brings you to a portfolio of all of their work. I know this is linked to an artist known as Meta because of the links at the very bottom of the page. The artist's Instagram is directly plugged into the site, and the Instagram of the artist clearly shows that their name is Meta. Most of it is what I would describe as a modern take on Picasso, with random geometric shapes being repeated, but with Meta's own artistic flair thrown in. Most of them have a great color scheme as well, and in my opinion are very cool to look at. If you have the time, go check out the Instagram and leave him some love. Moving on. WorldCorpo.net. So WorldCorpo.net is a website that has since been taken down, but there's still a good amount of information out there on the site. Using the Wayback Machine, I was able to get back onto the site itself. So this site became infamous for one big reason, and it's because of its direct link to child porn, which I will refer to as CP from here on out. There are a good amount of videos on the site which depict very hard child abuse videos in which you can hear children screaming. The website had an entire video section that contained tons of these types of videos, which were honestly very hard to watch. Even for someone like me that doesn't get too bothered by videos like that, it was extremely hard to not at least have my mood dampered down when watching some of the videos. There are two other sections titled Music and Images. Clicking on the Music tab leads you to these playable MP3 files of regular rap music. Some of the lyrics in the songs are pretty extreme, but as for the actual sound of the music, it's not too bad. I'd say it's just above average. The Images section is basically just full of nightmare fuel with tons of images like this on the page. The site has been shut down since 2019, and for good reason. Many speculate that due to the alarming number of videos linked with CP, that the website was forced to be shut down. The crazy part of all of this is that the entire website was on the clearnet for longer than it should have been. The stuff you can find on this one is reminiscent of the type of things you might find on the deep or dark web. Before we move on, I really advise you all not to go on this site unless you can actually stomach the nature of these videos. With that said, let's move on. This actually brings us to layer 7. Now, every website that is in layer 7 falls into one of two internet mysteries. The first one is the South32 incident, which involves three websites known as South32.com, Donkey.com, and Popcorn.com. And the second internet mystery is the Vanderstank Arg/cult phenomenon, which involves these 7 websites. Instead of explaining each website individually, I figured I'd just explain the incidents and go from there. Let's start with South32. So South32 refers to a website by the name of South32.com. This site has gone through quite a bit of changes. Going onto the site today, you will be met with an all red background that has a long line of text that says South32.com will be suing another website called South32.net. Newcomers to the site might be really confused as this makes absolutely no sense. And going to the other two websites related to this one, which are Donkey.com and Popcorn.com, are no help either, as they will just link you to a standalone site that just plays the video from before. So what's going on here? Well, the South32.com incident started way back when a movie by the same name came out. This movie was in fact called South32. It was a small indie flick that had a low budget and was released for free online to watch. The website back then also looked very different. Back then, the website appeared to be a promotional site intended to bring investors in for the movie. It had one video on it that asked for investors for the movie South32. This was furthered when people realized that the writer of South32, Luigi Bion, was the one that owned South32.com. During this time, a YouTuber by the name of Elder's Vault would release a video detailing the mystery behind South32.com. He uncovered that there were thousands of websites that would redirect back to South32.com, and all of them were owned by Luigi Bion. Shortly after this video came out, South32 would change its main page 2 different times. First, changing it from this promotional page to this creepy image with this sound playing in the background. Then the website would change once more from the dark site to this reward page. This reward page should be seen as a direct call out to Elder's Vault, as they say they will pay $100,000 to locate the man calling himself Mr. Elder and his online campaigns against South32.com. Nothing really came about from this callout, and the case remained unsolved for quite some time until Scare Theater posted his own video on the situation. In his video, he basically exposes the entire South32 website as being a cyber squatting scam. You see, there is a well-known mining company in Australia known as South32, and they have gone on record stating that whoever owned South32.com hit them up asking for $10 million to sell the domain name to the company. Instead, the mining company settled for the website South32.net. Scare Theater speculates that the reason the South32 movie came out was to give South32.com a legal reason to be up in the first place. Because if many of you don't know, cyber squatting, which is buying up a domain name in the hopes of selling it for more money, is actually illegal unless you have a real reason for using that domain name. This is why the movie was so low budget and low effort. It was only made with the intention of loopholing its way through the cyber squatting laws. Thankfully, the company settled for another website because I honestly just hate cyber squatters. A very scummy thing to do if you ask me. That's the entire South32 incident in a nutshell. There is a bit more details than just what I have provided here, so if you want to go down the rabbit hole yourself, I will leave a link to Scare Theater's video as well as Elder Vault's video on the subject. Moving on. The Vanderstank Arg. Okay, so this one is a very long one. All 7 of these websites tie in some way to the Vanderstank Arg. This ARG is said to have started with Project Rabbit and then transitioned into Vanderstank.com. Vanderstank.com is where most of the lore resides today. So let's start with ProjectRabbit.xyz because it's what started this entire fuckfest. ProjectRabbit.xyz started in 2016 when people began seeing these stickers around their hometown. The only reported posts state that these stickers were found in the state of Georgia, but I don't know if that's exactly where all of the stickers originated from. Not that it matters. What did matter was that these stickers were very eerie looking and all had one thing in common. They all said ProjectRabbit.xyz. People reported that these stickers were being mailed out by a user known as LC_Barbit and would mail people instructions along with the stickers detailing where to paste them. This was all done to get people on board for Project Rabbit. So what is this project? Well, Project Rabbit, as we know it, is the search for a missing woman known as Celia, which is an important woman to LC_Barbit. The original ProjectRabbit.xyz website looked something like this, and would frequently post videos and information to further the ARG. However, the ARG would meet a stopping point in 2017 when the fictional character known as LC_Barbit joined a group known as Vanderstank. Looking at this move from the outside, it feels like the creator of the original ARG ran out of ideas and said, fuck it, let's just create an entirely new ARG, but because he didn't want to lose his previous ARG community, he made it seem like his character LC_Barbit joined another community entirely, which was a completely new beast with new stories, new plots, new puzzles, and a new everything basically. So Vanderstank.com is a website that appears to be a cult member recruitment site. And as you can see, this looks pretty fucking real. Like, this site looks nice, like an actual website. Now after this site was created, the ARG kind of derailed. Similar to the Wyoming incident ARG, which had a nice flow at first, but then started to get way too convoluted for absolutely no reason. There are tons of other websites pertaining to the Vanderstank family, like IBelievePoppy.com. This website was the one that actually creeped me out the most because it seems normal at first, but as you scroll further down, you realize that the page just ends with the text saying, "Just keep going, don't look back," with the occasional text appearing on screen, jump scare style. The site appears to be written by Celia, but who knows how true this could be in terms of the actual ARG. Other sites include dagativetruth.wordpress.com, which is a blog site that mentions Celia several times. Then we have hazobio.com, which appears to be a login site for members of the Vanderstank family. The most obscure sites of the 7 are ohjohnringohno.neocities.org and vanderstank.church. The former site is this monstrosity, which has only one tie to the Vanderstank ARG, and it's this link right here. The site says it's under construction and has links to random YouTubers that I think the author of the site just enjoys because they have seemingly nothing to do with the whole Vanderstank family. Now, Vanderstank.church, on the other hand, is a very, very immersive experience. It's literally a virtual 3D experience built right into your browser. And this lets you take a real tour of the Vanderstank church. After discovering this website, I just wanted to know about this entire thing because this feels like a lot of work for something that's supposed to be an ARG. People have begun thinking that even though Vanderstank may have started as an ARG, it's definitely not one anymore. Some even believe it truly has become a cult as of recent times. There are even snapshots from former members of the site that lead me to believe that even though this started out as an alternate reality game, it nowhere near resembles that ideal any longer. Moving on. This brings us to layer 8, which I feel like has the real nightmare feeling websites. GoodbyeToTheDolphinsDreams. So this website is very similar to the Comic Naver entry near the top of this iceberg, only it's like 10 times more creepy. This website is focused on the character known as Iruka. Entering into the site, you are met with this small image of the character. Each time you click on her, she gets more and more injured until eventually she gets decapitated. Clicking from that point on, her body slowly gets put back together until finally she appears on screen, very freaking huge. Now keep in mind, I'm fading between these images so my viewers don't get scared, but in reality, the website's actually just jump cutting between all of these images and jump scares you by putting these images very fucking close to the screen. From here, clicking again makes these squares appear, and clicking on each of these squares will do something different. A few of them take you to weird pages that play very decrepit sounds, while others take you to pages where Iruka is in a very demonic looking state and animated to appear as though her eyes are missing. The other sites are your average shock pages that contain random shapes, obscure images, and flashing screens. Nothing too out of the ordinary for this iceberg. The creator of this site is known as a music producer named Atols. It's said that Atols created the site as a kid when he was studying HTML. I find it pretty disturbing that someone as a child could create something this fucking creepy. That's actually wild. But alas, this site remains to haunt the dreams of those who decide to go on it. Moving on. 47.net. 47.net is a site dedicated to the phenomenon of seeing the number 47. It's home to the 47 Society, who have been posting to the site dating back to the 1990s, with incidents in which the number 47 has manifested itself. Examples include studies at universities having 47,000 subjects, to incidents such as the plane crash in 1970 that killed all 47 people on board. There's not much else to be said about this website just because it's just tons and tons of examples of the number 47 being mentioned in religion, the news, historical incidents, and random personal occurrences in people's lives. One important thing to note is that the website only archives incidents from 1996 to 1998. It does say on the website that there were other archives from later years, but for some unknown reason, they have been lost forever. Moving on. LHOHQ. Oh man, LHOHQ. So for those that know about this site, know about the massive rabbit hole that it contains. I could probably make a 2-hour video on this site alone, and even then I'd probably still have a lot to go over still. To sum it up, it's a website full of softcore pornography, conspiracy, political connections, obscure creepy videos, and seizure-inducing pages with flashing lights. Going onto this site today, you will be brought to this page with Ronald McDonald hugging some random guy. Clicking on this picture takes you to the main site that states, "Welcome to Laughing Horse's Orifice Headquarters," which is what LHOHQ stands for. The website itself has well over 800 pages, and each page is full of literal walls of text. It is said that within these walls of text are the names, emails, and phone numbers of tons of political figures such as Hillary Clinton. I advise that if you go on this website and discover any of these numbers for yourself, do not call them. Attempting to contact these people through this means is an easy way to get yourself on the FBI watch list. A lot of the site feels like an ARG, and for good reason. There are a good amount of people that speculate that the site is actually a real source of insider information regarding the government, to the point that people think if you do a specific set of clicks, you will get to the real information about the world around us. Some even go as far as to say that they have found CP on the site, which I find hard to be true because the site is still up and running. On the flip side, others have this belief that it may even be a honeypot site, which for those unaware, is a site created by the government to attract people to commit illegal acts in order to incarcerate more criminals. Whatever the reason, the site still exists with its hundreds of pages and is quite the anomaly among the other sites just because of the sheer volume of information on it. There is another site known as ACDCA, which stands for Applied Chaos Dynamics Control Association, which is linked with LHOHQ. This appears to be an archive for more conspiracy type documents. It's important to note that the LHOHQ mystery has been somewhat solved by another YouTuber known as Blame It on Jorge, which I will leave a link to below in the description if you want to watch his video on it. What he ends up deducing from all of his research is that LHOHQ is nothing more than, you guessed it, an art project. This one focuses on an art form known as Dadaism, which is a form of artistic expression where the audience has full control of interpretation, which makes sense, considering just how many theories have come out on the subject. Dadaism as a whole can summarize most of the sites we have talked about thus far, but far more interesting than that is LHOHQ's link to videos on Vimeo, which link the entire LHOHQ organization to an executive producer based in Los Angeles named Mark Escribano. This does put a damper on everyone's theories, as it does ground the website to some entity. However, believe whatever you want, as that seems to be what the site is meant for. Moving on. IsraelTodayNews.Blogspot.com. So this one seemed just like another blog that had conspiracies on it until I dug a tiny bit deeper. Going onto this site today is impossible as it's been shut down, but thanks to the Wayback Machine I've been able to access it. Most of the website talks about a man named David Goldberg and his involvement with a whistleblower on secret government projects known as Project Pogo and Project Zypher. Both of these projects are the usual suspects type of projects you'd expect from this conspiracy. Project Pogo was supposed to be a project in which the government would set up various social media accounts on various websites like YouTube in order to honeypot conspiracy theorists and other social dissidents. Project Zypher, on the other hand, was a project that was basically a rundown on how the New World Order would take over in 2020, talking about how COVID-19 was planned as a way to exterminate American dissenters and leave Donald Trump with a swarm of mindless zombies that would believe his every word. Believe what you want. I obviously don't buy into this, and I don't think you necessarily should. It's 2021 right now, and none of what was predicted has happened, so yeah. Now, the more interesting part of all of this is that the website seems like it's just meant to promote these ideologies and conspiracies. However, some have realized that it's actually a creative scheme to sucker people into buying Bitcoin and then having it stolen by the author of this other site. The way in which this was done was pretty elaborate, so let's start here. This article, along with many other articles on the site, randomly throws in the idea of Bitcoin and explains how you should get it in order to remain undetected. This is done so that even if you haven't used Bitcoin before, you will hopefully buy into what the site is saying and go get some Bitcoin for yourself. Then, after you research through a bunch of the documents, you start seeing this site titled BitcoinQ.org popping up. This site was a trap that would somehow steal people's Bitcoins that they just purchased. I don't know how this site actually accomplished this or how it would scam people, but all I know is that this is what the site's purpose was. What an elaborate scheme, because if you ask me, that's pretty damn crazy. Hopefully no one actually bought into these ideologies nor the Bitcoin scam. Moving on. Order.atspace.org. Not going too in depth on this site because it appears to be another site that ties into LHOHQ and ACDCA. It appears to be a missing chapter to the long book on the invisible order of the Pythagorean Hydra, which, you guessed it, is yet another conspiracy about who the New World Order is going to take over. The document discusses the Illuminati, aliens, and has very disturbing imagery that I've taken the liberty of censoring due to the nudity. Moving on. This brings us to layer 9 of the entire iceberg. Frazzled.rip. There's not much craziness to this one. Opening the site, however, it has been rumored to have the ability to infect your browser and give you viruses or steal your information. So please don't visit this site unless you have protection against that sort of thing. The website just has one page and it's a very creepy picture of Hillary Clinton. Now, the reason this was made is actually more disturbing than the actual website itself. Those who have seen my chart of truth iceberg know what Pizzagate is, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that video, go watch that series after watching this one. Anyways, this website ties into the Pizzagate rumor but goes further than just the initial idea. For those who don't know what Pizzagate is, it's the conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton and her former campaign manager ran an underground child sex ring through the use of pizza restaurants. People speculated that the pizza chains were merely a front and that they had underground paths and tunnels that allowed them to transfer children and do unspeakable things to them for money. Frazzled.rip ties into this because Frazzled.rip is the rumored file name of a video that exists on the deep web of Hillary Clinton and her associates killing and raping a child. There is supposed to be some evidence of its existence, but of course it's not confirmed, as with a lot of these online conspiracies. That's basically the entire story for this one. Moving on. MilitantConsumerism.wordpress.com. When I first stumbled upon this site, I was very quick to want to write it off, as it's just a lame blog post with no disturbing elements. However, as I read some of the blogs, it became very apparent that this was no ordinary site. MilitantConsumerism.wordpress.com ties into many of the aforementioned websites, such as Applied Chaos Dynamics Control and the Invisible Order of the Pythagorean Hydra. The crazy thing is that this site seems to have been independently made from those two, meaning that there isn't a link from the other two sites that can bring you here. Someone on their own time, independent of those projects, made this website and seems to be an actual member of both of those organizations. The scary part is how much detail, knowledge, and real-world events that this guy actually goes over. At first I thought I was just reading nonsense, but it became clear that this guy is not just saying a bunch of nothing. The blog goes over how Donald Trump's presidency wasn't a planned move from the New World Order, as they actually wanted Hillary Clinton in office, discussing the plans that the ACDCA has in store for America. Some of the blog posts talk about the most renowned conspiracies from all over the internet, such as the MLK and JFK being killed by the FBI. The last post from the person states that he will stop blogging the secret plans and machinations of the reptilian Illuminati New World Order conspiracy, ending the blog with this sentence: "If any of you know how to delete this blog, please let me know, I'd appreciate it." I know that all of this is just a bunch of bullcrap, but I will admit there is a little part of me that doubts myself, thinking, what if this blog is actually being serious and there is some secret underground organization that we don't know about? Thoughts like that actually really freak me out, but if you made it here, you are almost done with the video. This brings us to layer 10. So layer 10 is actually a troll layer. The creator of the iceberg even said so himself, but I'm still going to go over the items anyways, but I'm just going to blast through them because there isn't anything too disturbing on the sites. BingBong.com. BingBong.com is just a website dedicated to Bing and Bong's dog stories, whoever that is. That seems to be it, as every link on the site leads to pages about stories of these dogs. Bing.com. Bing.com is on here as a meme. If you have seen those Google versus Bing memes, you might understand this. The joke here is that searching up certain things on Google versus Bing brings up drastically different results. An example is this meme, which is about suicide. Searching up suicide on Google brings up the hotline, while Bing brings up a WikiHow page on how to do the deed. Obviously this isn't true, as you can go onto Bing right now and see that it's just a meme, but that's the general idea behind this being on the list. MomSpaghetti.ytmnd.com. This website is just a troll website built around that one line from Eminem's rap. It just has a big play button and shows this weird image of Eminem while playing that part of the song in the background. That actually brings us to the end of this iceberg. For those who stuck with me till the end of the video, here's a special announcement. As you guys can see by what I'm wearing, I'm going to be releasing limited edition merch that's only going to be up until I hit 50,000 subscribers. Once I pass the 50,000 subscriber threshold, all of the merch will be taken off of my store. If you guys like the design, go ahead and go show me some love. We do have shirts, and we also have hoodies. There is a black and white variant for both the shirts and the hoodie. The black version is going to have a colored logo, while the white version is going to have a black and white logo. So if you really want to support me, please head over to my shop. The link is going to be down in the description below. This is going to be a limited run of these shirts and hoodies, so once I hit 50,000 subscribers, they're going to be taken off the shop forever. I also wanted to give a special shout out to someone that helped me out a few weeks ago. You should know that there was an incident that happened on TikTok where somebody was taking my videos and reposting them on TikTok, making it look as if they were the ones making the videos and taking credit for my work. This was actually brought to my attention by one of you guys. The person that sent the email that informed me of the situation actually reached out to me on Discord. And as a special thank you, I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart, I wanted to plug their Spotify in. Their band, Maple Grenade, just dropped an album with over 10 songs on it. If you guys want to go check it out and show them some love on Spotify, I would really appreciate it. This person really helped me out the last few weeks. Just wanted to say thank you again, and go check them out, guys. Before I end the video, I wanted to say thank you to anyone that's watching this part right now. I can't believe that we're growing this fast, and it's really crazy to me that people are waiting around to watch my videos. Wanted to apologize for how long this one took to get out. I feel like I've learned a lot from doing this entire project. It's around like the first like 2-hour video I've done in a long time. I used to do podcasts a while back, but that's a lot different. It's a lot easier to do than this. This one had a lot more editing in it, and I didn't think it was going to take me around like a month to finish. I really had no idea how long it was going to take me. Just wanted to say sorry to everybody because I feel like I disappointed, and I just wanted to take some accountability and just say that I'm sorry. I feel like I could have got this video out a lot sooner had I anticipated what I actually needed to get done. I do feel like I learned a lot from it though, and I hope I can get enough content out to you guys in the next few months because we're just growing, and I'm very excited to see where this channel goes. Just want to say I love you guys. Hope you guys all have a great night, and see you in the next video. Thanks.